Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Bikes for Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I am your host. And on today's episode, we are talking about West Virginia and taking a look at the bike scene up there. Specifically, we're talking about GRUSK, which stands for Gravel Ride Up Spruce Knob. And it is a bike race that has been taking place in West Virginia since 2016. It's evolved over the years and now offers distances from 25 miles up to 260. And each route features a long out and back up Spruce Knob, which is the highest point in West Virginia at 4,863 feet. When Travis, the race director, contacted me about coming out, I was immediately interested and excited. I had done a bikepacking trip in West Virginia back in 2019, and that trip shared some of the same roads and trails that GRUSK goes on. And I remember this area being very beautiful and remote, and I was excited to go see it again and check out the cycling scene up in West Virginia and see what that was like. And I'm happy to report that West Virginia is just as wild and wonderful as I remember, and the cycling scene is thriving as well. I spent the weekend following the 240 and 260 mile riders and taking some photos. And then after they were done, I sat down with the two first place single speed winners of the 260 mile route, Joice and Maggie Livelsberger, to get their perspective on the route, the race, and to hear their experiences. And I also sat down with Travis Olson, the race director, to tell us more about this event. So that's what we have coming up for you on today's episode. But before we get to it, let's take a moment to thank the people that made it possible, starting with our latest batch of patrons. Oh, wait, we don't have any this week, but that's okay. Maybe next week. Maybe next week I'll be saying your name on the podcast. We appreciate all 333 of our patrons that support this work on a monthly basis. And if you appreciate these episodes and would like to help us produce them, you can find out how over at patreon.com/bikesfordeath. All right, this week we're doing something fun. Stans sent me a couple new pairs of wheels. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to unbox my first set of wheels with you. We're going to take a first look, and I'm going to give you my impressions right out of the box. So here we go. Already opened up the box. Take this bad boy out. First, we're starting with the rear wheel. All right, so we have a Flow MK4. This is going to be for a mountain bike that I'm building up. And so this is a little bit more of a beefy wheel. And right off the bat, I'm telling you, this thing looks sweet. One thing I really like in a wheel is kind of subtle graphics. And this one has a very nice matte black finish. It's not a polished finish. It is this matte finish, which I really like. And then the logo, the lettering is also very minimal. It's just a light gray on there that says Flow MK4 Stands, and that's it. And I'm excited about these because they are laced to the new Impulse hub, which is supposed to be a really nice hub. And the most important test, let's see how it sounds. You ready? Oh, baby, that's so butter. Woo! Let's do it again. I like that. Let's see if we can go. Oh, that sounds so good. That sound makes me want to ride my damn bike. Absolutely love it. This wheel looks sexy as hell. It sounds sexy. It feels durable. I cannot wait to get this thing out on the bike and give it a spin. Also,
Each wheel comes with a little tag that says obviously what it is, but who it's built by, who it was trued by, and who it was inspected by. So 3 different people have to sign off on each one of their wheels, which I thought was cool. I cannot wait to put those on a bike and go ride them. They are beautiful. Thank you so much, Stans. And they also sent me another wheel set for my Panorama Katahdin. That is my carbon gravel bike. So we're going to keep it light. And they sent me a set of their Grail CB7 Team, which is a carbon wheel set from them. I couldn't even wait to do an unboxing on these things. I got them. I took them directly to the bike shop. They're getting installed right now. And I'm going to take you on a test drive of that new wheel set on my Panorama Katahdin. And I can't wait to take you along for a test drive. To learn more about Stans and their wide array of bicycling products, not only sealant, but hey, wheels and hubs and all kinds of good stuff, head over to notubes.com and check out all their offerings and tune in to more Bikes or Death episodes to find out how I like the Grail CB7s coming soon.
And also, I want to remind y'all, if you haven't picked yourself up a pair of Ombras yet, you are missing out. They are the world leader in armless sunglasses. Sounds weird, I know, but don't just trust me. Trust legends like Sarah Swallow, John Watson, Ultra Romance. You'll see these armless sunglasses dangling around their necks or on their faces, and that's not by accident. These are amazing sunglasses, and Ombras is making it easy for you to own a pair and support your favorite podcast all at the same time. How are they doing that, you ask? Well, Ombras is offering you $20 off any pair of their sunglasses. All you have to do is use code BOD20 at checkout. You get $20 off a pair of sunglasses, and Ombras will send Bikes for Death $20 as a thank you. So this is a win-win situation. To check out their shades, go to www.ombraz.com and don't forget to use the promo code BOD20 at checkout to get yourself $20 off a fresh pair of shades and send your favorite podcast a fresh $20 bill. All right, everyone, that is it. The bills have been paid, and now it is time to get on to my chat with Travis, Chris, and Maggie. So the format for today's episode is, first up, like the first 25, 30 minutes or so is me talking with Travis all about GRUSK, and then we transition into my conversation and interview with Chris and Maggie. We had a lot of fun. It was a super great event. I had a blast, and I can't wait to share it with you. But first, let's have Miles Arbor kick it off with the Bikes for Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends, or you could be alone. You ride for a day, or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes. Or death. Bikes. Or death. Podcast.
Travis, welcome to the Bikes for Death podcast.
Hey, thanks, Patrick, for having me. Glad to be here.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I can't believe you actually agreed to come out to West Virginia and hang out in the woods and watch 400 bike racers bike through the gravel roads. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm an easy yes. This is what I want to be doing. So I'm really excited. I didn't start a podcast because I want to keep bikepacking a secret or, cycling a secret or a love for the outdoors, right? Like I want to be at events like this, covering them and shining a light on them to whatever degree that I can. And this event, I think, deserves a little light shown on it. I was talking about this on the last podcast, or actually maybe 2 ago. I can't remember, recently. But if it's gotten to the point now where there's so many events that it's it's impossible to keep up with, like I, as somebody who kind of covers and, featuring like different events, different riders, like I cannot keep up with all of them. And this one is one that has been going on. I think this was the 8th year and I'd never heard of it. So, I mean, sometimes it just takes someone picking up the phone and calling me and be like, hey, we got something cool going on here. I'd love for you to come check it out.
Oh, nice.
And it was kind of cool because full circle, like I came and did a bikepacking trip here in West Virginia, like right in this same area. Like it was either 2018 or 2019. I can't recall. And then you heard that episode and that got you turned on to Bikes or Death. And then eventually
absolutely.
You were like, well, let's bring this guy out here and have him come check it out in person. So
yeah, that worked out really well. Yeah. I was on a business trip down to Cherokee, North Carolina. And, I was just looking for podcasts and I was actually looking for North Fork Mountain, which is one of the big IMBA epic mountain bike trails in the area. And you had mentioned that or tagged that in your podcast, and that's how you popped up.
Oh.
And after that, I was hooked. I downloaded them, all that you had at that time, and listened to it all the way down and back from West Virginia to Cherokee and back. So, and then I was hooked. I've been hooked ever since.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah. It's an amazing podcast, and it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, now you get to be on it.
Yeah, now my little 15 minutes of fame. So thanks, Patrick.
No, man, thank you. I'm easy. So it's the day after. So we're sitting here Sunday morning at the event still. You just ushered through somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 people over the last 3 or 4 days. It's raining. How are you feeling?
I'm tired, but I'm feeling good. It was a really good event this year. A lot of it had to do with the weather and the attitude of the other participants that showed up. I mean, a sunny day always helps, but when they come back across the finish line and have a cold beer waiting on them and friends cheering them on, it's just an infectious energy that just invade your body, and you can't help but smile and feel accomplished when you see that many people having fun and all that positive energy, and it's amazing.
No, it was a good time. This is definitely what I personally am attracted to. I do it in my own event, but bring everybody together at the end and have a party, have a beer, have some conversations, and it gives everybody that opportunity to kind of relive their experience, create friendships, and build the community. And I personally really enjoy that approach to, cycling events, at the end, just coming together and having that camaraderie.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I really like about gravel. The road racing scene, I mean, you make friends that way in the mountain biking scene, and I've made some really good friends that are here today. But the gravel scene, it's really a community, and that's what I love about it. And you can see the small pockets and the small factions that come to this event, and they see other groups of gravel riders and make acquaintances and friendships, and it's just nice to be able to bring that many people together and help them connect.
It is. It's a very impactful feeling I pinch myself. I'm like, man, this is so great to think like I did this. I created something. I brought all these people here, and it's a really good feeling. And you don't want to make it all about yourself, but it feels good. You're like,
does.
Wow.
Yeah, it feels really good.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. It feels like you did something good,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes you lose sight of that, and as an event promoter, you're well aware of all the hard work and the late nights leading up to it, and sometimes you lose focus of how fulfilling it is and that good feeling at the end. But it's going to be there.
Yeah. It's the same as the bike ride, man. If you're going 260
Absolutely.
miles, you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? This sucks. But then you finish and you're like, oh yeah, that's why I did it.
Yeah, it's definitely like just a long, hard bike ride where it's just that type A fun where you're in the throes of it and you might not like it, but then you get out of it and it was well worth all the effort.
Yeah, I don't know how well aware other people are of how much of an endurance effort it is to put on a multi-day event like this from an event director standpoint, because I know you have been sleeping probably less than 4 hours every single night for 4 or 5 days in a row. And throughout the day, you're having to work, engage with people, manage people, and run an event that's, catering to 400 to 500 people, safety,
Right.
logistics, food, music, everything, right? And I don't know how aware everybody else is of how much behind the scenes of an endurance effort it is to just conduct one of these events.
Yeah. And I think before I started doing this, I really had no idea. And until you actually do one, it's really the hidden behind the scenes kind of things that you don't even think about, and it all adds up. And there is a lot of work involved. And luckily I have, an amazing core group of friends that come and help me with this every year and just make it happen. And I couldn't do it without them. But yeah, there's some sleepless nights, and when you're up here in the mountains for 4 or 5 days, it's worth it, definitely. But trying to carve out some more sleep is probably one of my strategies for the future.
Yeah. More help equals more sleep, I think.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Some of those little things like bike reg emails and just reminders and setting up the aid stations and all the lists of things that have to happen, start delegating that out. And that's one of the things that I'm probably not the best at. I hate to put too much on other people. I kind of try to put it all on myself.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
I'm getting a little bit better. It's not that I want to micromanage it. It's just I hate putting other people out for this event. But, the folks that, the friends that I have who come and help with this, they've told me again and again just how much they love it. And, they're equal partners in all of this. And, they love it as much as I do.
Yeah, I've seen that throughout the weekend. I mean, you have a great team of friends and volunteers that are, just really engaged and helpful. And it's been amazing. Actually, I'm impressed by how many people are here supporting the event, and everybody's having a good time. Everybody has a smile on their face, and it's just, the vibe is good. Everybody's happy and having a good time. It's just a fun place to be, and people it's the same thing we were saying. It's like, it feels good to do something and to be a part of this, to be able to offer, at least, on some level, some assistance to help facilitate people coming and experiencing this event and having it be safe and fun. It feels good,
Yeah, it really does. And it brings people to this really, it's a remote part of West Virginia, but when they get here and see the venue and they learn about what this venue is all about, and the nonprofit that is behind this venue, and the mission that they have, it helps them spread the word about the cool things that happen here, and just being a magical place altogether. When you roll up the road into this venue, you see just the expanse of all the meadows that you're going to be camping in, and then you come down and see the big yurts that we're sitting in right now, and it's really unique. And I've never seen really anything like this.
Yeah,
and it's special to have it here in West Virginia, so close to at home. Really,
this yurt that we're in is just sick, and I do want to touch on it real quickly, because I think having a cool venue does kind of help the event in a way. It's like, wow, you feel like excited to be here. And you're right, like you crest that hill of the meadow, and you come over that little hill, and then you see these, like, this beautiful 3 yurt structure. Where are we?
So we're in the middle. I like to say we're in the middle of everything, but we're not close to anything.
Okay.
So we're close to Circleville, West Virginia, which is just down the road from Seneca Rocks. That's one of the major landmarks in West Virginia that people might be familiar with. But we're nestled in the Monongahela National Forest. It takes up almost half of West Virginia. It's pretty expansive, but this venue that we're in, it's a 500-acre inholding that's surrounded by the National Forest, and we're fortunate enough to be able to use it for this event, and it really works out well. it's challenging because it is so remote and there aren't a lot of resources, even within an hour's drive of the venue, so logistically it's really hard to have an event here. But the reward is, everybody and their comments about how incredible this place is, and they get to come and ride bikes in such a beautiful place and stay for the after party under these really cool yurts. And
you were saying that this yurt is, I got it wrong on the pod when I was doing my interview yesterday. It's the biggest in West Virginia. It's the biggest in America. What was the?
I'll have to.
Okay,
I should have asked some of the staff, so I don't want to be. It's definitely the biggest in West Virginia.
Okay, for sure. We got that.
Yeah, so I'll probably have to get back to you on. I don't want to lie to you and overstate it, but I think I heard it's one of the largest in the country in the United States.
Yeah. Well, it's very cool, and I got some pictures of it. People can go to my website and or social media, and I'll have some pictures of the yurt and the grounds here for people to check out.
Oh, great!
But it makes it like when I came over the hill, I was like, oh, sick. That's where we're staying. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people have that same, because you said we're in an in-holding in a national forest, so. It's like Mulberry Gap in Georgia. You know, it's another in-holding, and there's just these little pockets of really cool places where you can host an event, and you're in the thick of the national forest in a really beautiful place, and then you just find an amazing venue like this. It's pretty incredible. Yeah,
it was just so lucky. I grew up in West Virginia and had no idea that this place was here until I learned about other events and just happened on it, and reached out to them to build a gravel race at the time around this venue, and it's really worked out.
Yeah. Well, that's a great segue. How and when and maybe why did you start GRUSK? Because it's evolved a lot over the past 8 years. So how did it start, and give us a little brief history of it?
So the history is my friends and I would ride in this area, a couple times a year, and we always talked about putting some type of, or we would say, it'd be nice to have an event that would go up to Spruce Knob. And my buddies, I'm easily talked into things. So after we did one of our New Year's Eve rides up Spruce Knob in the middle of winter, we decided to try it the following summer. And that's when I reached out to the folks here at Experience Learning to see about using the venue, and it all just rolled from there. And it just built up steam every year, and started off with a really small pocket of 100 folks, mainly from the area, and a few from DC who had heard about it, because we're only about 3 hours away from Washington, D.C. in the Northern Virginia area, and that big, huge population. So I was able to draw on that and draw from within the state, and just through word of mouth, not much advertising on my part. It's just grown every year. Yeah.
So it's evolved to, it started as an 85 mile. Is that right?
Yeah, it started as the original race. I had two distances. And I may have to fact check myself. There was a shorter 30-mile distance, and there was a 73-mile distance. Yeah. The first year, and the courses, all the courses share the trip up to Spruce Knob and back down. But the course has really evolved. The first year, I had a really busy 2-lane road that was really heavy with truck traffic and tourist traffic, and I found some other roads that are even more remote that are all gravel. So it's allowed me to create a gravel event that is almost over 90% gravel. Wow. So it's pretty neat. I've actually had a couple complaints about having too much gravel, because I think riders like to have that smooth pavement for just a little bit. It feels like they get a little rest.
Yeah. Well, they got smooth pavement on the way up to Spruce Knob.
Yeah, absolutely.
That last stretch is it's like glass, man.
It is.
That's some nice pavement.
And it feels that way on the bike.
Yeah. So let's talk about the significance of Spruce Knob.
Yeah, so Spruce Knob is the highest peak in West Virginia, just over 4,800 feet. So that's one of the draws for our participants. They get to say that they've biked to the highest peak in West Virginia, and kind of check that off their list of things they probably didn't know they wanted to do.
Yeah. When I came in, it's been fun because I told you I did that bikepacking trip, 5 or 6 years ago. And I remember we went to Spruce Knob Lake. So I drove down to Spruce Knob Lake. I'm like, yep, this is the place. And it brought me back. I was trying to remember if I rode up to Spruce Knob. But once I like came back to the area and I was driving around, I was like, oh no, we didn't do that. I specifically remember opting out of, because how long is it? But it's not a loop. Every single person is doing it. It's an out and back, and I don't know. It's about 6 miles. I said yesterday.
Yeah,
on the
you're exactly right.
Okay.
So from the venue where we are to the top, it's 12 miles, but from the lake, it's roughly a little over 6 miles to the summit. Yeah. So and it's a mixture of pavement and gravel, and the grade's not that crazy.
Right.
So it's really an every person's kind of mountain that you can come climb on your bike.
Yeah. It's just long. That's what we said on the podcast yesterday. It's a 6 mile long climb. I think Chris said it's an average 4% grade. So, you just get into a cadence and work your way up it, and then you have 6 miles of downhill.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I love one thing I really like. What I did with my showdown is like I have the death loop at the end. It's kind of just like a little kick in the teeth at the very end. And for the longer distances, and I think just about everyone, I mean, depending on the length, right? Some of them are just going up and down, but you have it essentially at the end of every route that's longer, as kind of like, and I really like that. It's like it's the hardest challenge, but also it's kind of the biggest reward at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I first started the event, we had the summit last for all categories. And now I reserve it last for the longer 200 plus mile, bike packing routes that we have. I moved the other categories to do the summit first last year. Is mainly for tourist traffic. It gets pretty busy up there when the weather's nice. Yeah. And when the weather's not nice, there's a lot of electrical storms in the afternoon. So it was really twofold to start them to the summit and back down for the Saturday event, just for safety reasons.
That makes a lot of sense. When I was out there yesterday, I saw that as the day went on, the traffic was just increasing. Yeah. Yeah. So.
And it can be pretty dangerous because, you'll see a rider in a super tuck going down that 6 mile gravel descent. And the last thing I want to see is them, a hood ornament on someone's car. So, I'm risk averse the older I get. Sure. I'm becoming a little more risk averse, and I just want to make a safer event. So that was one of the things to make it safer. And it allows them to attack that fresh. And I think they like that. But for the 200 plus, we keep it at the end because that's the true challenge. You're finishing your ride at the top of Spruce Knob essentially before you come to the venue.
Yeah, I love it. I also love the out and back with getting to see people. Like if you're going up, other ones are coming down, and I just think that's a cool element to a race. Yeah,
and especially if you're riding with friends or teammates, you can give them some encouragement as you're heading down, and they might be on the struggle bus getting up to the summit, and they see your friendly face, and it gives them a little bit of energy to pick up the pace and kick it in a little bit and maybe get there a little bit quicker.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's beautiful up there. We should also acknowledge.
Yeah, you can see for 50 or 60 miles. You can see into Virginia from the top of Spruce Knob. It's on a clear day. It's just mountain after mountain after mountain. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It reminded me of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Western North Carolina.
Yeah, similar.
Just layers of those rolling mountains for miles and miles and miles.
Yeah, it really does. They're a little bit bigger down there, but it's that same.
I couldn't tell. It was
it's that same mountain view. Yeah, just the overlapping mountains as you look out.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So one thing that I had commented on is that, and you're very aware of, is that at this point in its 8th year, you've developed many different route options. You have competitive, you have non-competitive, and you have a lot of moving parts. So
sure.
Give us like a rundown of of the options, the route options that are available to people that want to come out here and check it out.
Yeah, so I try my best to design the entire event to be inclusive, and that's inclusive of really almost any bike ability. Maybe not off the couch for the first time rider, but our 25-mile route is designed to if you just bike on the rail trail, it's a really good challenge to come take on that easy grade. It's just long to get to the summit. And then we have
I'm going to interrupt you real quick,
Yeah.
but just to your point, there was a 10-year-old yesterday that did the 25-mile. She was the daughter of the bike shop owner there in Elkins.
Yeah, that was Hallie, and she's an amazing biker at 10 years old, and of course both of her parents are just expert level mountain bikers.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm quite certain that was our youngest. We've had some kids on tandems, on the back of tandems, but I think she was the youngest one who's been under her own power to climb to the summit of Spruce Knob at GRUSK. So
yeah, amazing.
It was amazing to see.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been there to see her, at the summit. That would have been really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for reminding me of that.
Yeah. And then when I was out there, I saw, it's what you want to see. I saw a breadth, a great variety of all kinds of people and riders and ability levels. And that's what you want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after the 25, we have a 50 mile and we have an 80 mile, 100 mile, and then we get into the 200 mile, but we try to design something for everyone. And to meet, you can pick your challenge, and I think people do that, though, especially the people that come back year after year. They may start out on the 25 and then they'll try the 50 because they hear about another awesome 8-mile downhill that's on the 50-mile route, or they'll hear about the view that's on the 80-mile route. And some of those challenges. And it's nice to see them progress like that year after year.
Yeah, I like having different route options for a couple reasons. One, you can come with your friends, your partner, whoever, and you may be at different levels, but you can both participate in the event at whatever level you want to be at. And then the other thing that I think that you're doing is you're giving people, stepping stones, and you can start at the 25 and you could eventually work all the way up to the 260 if you want to. And so I like that, having the progression of events to just keep people coming back. And to your point, have it be inclusive, and that casts a pretty wide net, and you're able to get a lot of people of different abilities, interest level. What kind of fun are you interested in at the same event, which is really cool. Yeah,
and it's really cool. And we stagger the starts a little bit too. They don't really finish at exactly the same time, but they're collectively, coming in. So you may be on the finishing hill with, your friend that did the 25-mile route and you did the 70-mile route, just based on, your different paces. So
or you can be Katie McGuire that did the 260 on the non-competitive, and she came in at the same time as some of the people on the 85 mile. I don't know who they were, but there was like a race, one of the gravel racers coming in, and she was coming in, and they're just all trickling in at different times.
Yeah. And that's true. And what is really cool about the meadows that people camp in. So when those longer 200-mile plus riders come in off of their course and their hard day or days, and they're coming in at night and everybody's camping, you can hear cheers as they roll through the road between the meadows that everybody's camping in. And it's moving to see that support for those riders coming in. And that's I don't know if you see that too many other places for those really long distance rides like that.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about non-competitive versus competitive. You have a couple different options.
Yeah.
You're timing some, you're not timing others. So what does that break down?
Yeah, so last year I decided to make it a non-competitive Grand Fondu for our Saturday event. And it was partly selfish for me. It's a little bit easier to manage, not having to worry about people racing the entire course. And it was a little bit for safety. There are parts of the course where it was really dangerous for them to be racing with some of the tourist traffic. So it encourages people to keep their head up and look around and not have to pedal as fast in some of those more dangerous areas. And what I have found, I was worried that it was going to be the death nail in this event in doing that. And I caught some people off guard, and I had a little bit of backlash for doing that from the tip of the spear racers that were used to coming to GRUSK and, just hammering for 70 or 100 miles. But what I heard last year is people like the non-competitive aspect, and I heard that echoed this year. But within that non-competitive event, what I've designed is our Strava challenges, and they're for fun too. But it gives people a carrot, and they're looking for those. I have them all marked on the course so they can go out and hammer with their friends and then regroup at the end, almost like an enduro mountain bike event. And there's some other events that have done this. I did an event like that back in 2017, the 50 Shades of Gravel, and we timed the segments, and it was a lot of fun. And what you saw were just pockets of people riding together, and then they would hammer that segment out and regroup and party pace it to the next one.
Man, that's a good idea. I might have to steal that idea. Sounds like you stole it from someone else, so we'll just keep the stealing alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that is a fun way to do it. And then with your longer events, the 220 and the 260, essentially you have a touring pace, a 3-day,
yes,
or more of a race pace, which is a 2-day. So you can pick your flavor on the longer distances too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that seems to be pretty well received. It was a pretty even split between the 3-day bike packing crowd and the 2-day, or some of the, I think it was a fastest known time this year from the winner of the 220-mile route. I think he knocked that out in 15 hours.
Oh, wow.
I don't know the exact number. I don't have it in front of me, but it was just over 15 hours. So he crushed it.
You have a bunch of new FKTs on the 260 because this was the first year for the 260, right?
Yeah.
So everybody who won there, so we have 2 single-speed FKTs and 2 geared FKTs, essentially.
So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a brand new route, and they got to test it out for me.
And the feedback was great.
Great.
I got to talk to Chris and Maggie yesterday, and nothing but positive reviews from your 2 single speed winners. And,
that's good to hear.
And I mean, from my perspective, I drove around about 200 miles in the 2 days that I was here, and absolutely impressed with what I saw, and it really made me jealous to be in a car and taking pictures and not out there riding. And I would love to come back and tour it, maybe race it, but I tend to like the touring option more.
Yeah, I probably would too. I strive to get back in the shape where I could even tour those long days. I've letting myself, go a little bit, but it inspires me to see these people and what they can do to get back on the bike and really get after it.
Start a podcast, you'll get inspired. Just talk to people doing this all the time, and you're like, you can't help but be inspired. So I have to ask, being the bike packing guy, I mean the 220 and the 260 are amazing, and I don't want to cast any shadow on that, but I am curious, do you have any thoughts about extending and offering even longer events at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been working on a state-wide or a state-long route. That's a bike packing route that starts in the north of West Virginia and goes all the way to the southern border with Virginia.
Wow.
And some of that is now shared with the Eastern Continental Divide. It was, I was talking to the folks who were putting that together, and I think some of what we were talking about made it into that route. But the plan is to maybe create something that's a little more, a lot longer, and then loop it around so we could have a possibly 600-mile loop in West Virginia, where you could either ride it north to south, south to north, and that would be your day or days. Or if you'd want to make a really extended loop out of it and be out there for a week or more, and showcase everything that the state has to offer.
Yeah, I dig it, man. Well, I don't have any other questions. This has been a great event. It's in a beautiful location. It's well run. Everybody was safe. Everybody, I mean, and I was in the audience, and some people know who I am. A lot of people don't. And so I was hearing what people were chattering, and I only heard good things. I mean, I heard good things about the non-competitive aspect of it, and I heard good things about how well it was run, and everybody was having a good time.
Oh,
and
that's great.
It's a beautiful venue. So, again, I appreciate you bringing me out. Is there anything we didn't touch on that you think people need to know about this event?
Well, we'll be doing it again next year. So
that's important.
We'll be setting the date, and we'll announce that. So yeah, that's very important. But
so what's the best way to people to follow what you're doing and make sure they're up to date with, because you don't only do this event, you talked about the 50 Shades of Gravel, so you're doing other events in the area too.
Yeah, this is the main event that I do right now, just for the sake of work and home life and things like that. It's about all I can handle right now.
Yeah.
So the best way to find out more about this is our website, mountainrides.net, or look up GRUSK on social media, and that'll usually point you here.
Or just listen to this episode on repeat.
Yeah, exactly.
Selfish plug there. All right, man. Well, thanks again. It's been a fun experience. It's been a wild and wonderful experience.
Well, thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you, Travis. Well, let's do it. Why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? Who are you? Where are you from? And how long was your drive or trip to get here? Let's start there.
Okay. Well, I'm Chris Joice from Knoxville, Tennessee, and it took me via Virginia and Pittsburgh forever to get here. Anyways, I'm about six hours or so from home. So.
You're from Tennessee?
Yep.
Is that where you're living right now?
Yep. Knoxville.
Oh, okay. Is that Eastern Tennessee?
It sure is.
Yeah. I hear you're an Eastern Tennessee legend.
Something like that.
That's the rumor on the internet, so it must be true.
I mean, yeah, I guess I won't argue it. I've been riding bikes a lot for a while. So, and I like dumb, hard things,
Yeah, you're my kind of people.
If we're going to go for it, like, why not? And I think life's about stories. So go out and have some experiences, make some stories, and that's why we come do this stuff, I think.
Man, that's perfect, because I'm in the story capturing business. I don't know if you know that, but I do a podcast, and
What?
I actually collect stories and put them on the internet. So we're a perfect match.
There you go. Wonders never cease.
No, they certainly don't. All right, Maggie.
I'm Maggie Livelsberger, and I am from Erie, Pennsylvania. And I think it was about a 7.5 hour drive for us. Not too bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Very uneventful.
And Maggie, you, like, people on the internet, I've seen people were texting me about you. You have a nickname of Large Marge.
Yes.
I asked some other people where you got the nickname, and nobody could tell me, so I'm going to have to ask you.
It is from PB's Big Adventure, and that I think my brother gave me that nickname when we were kids, and it kind of stuck. So all my friends in high school called me Large Marge or Marge, and it just never went away.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, it was probably 5.
Any reason why it was just a random nickname?
I think I used to do the tell him Large Marge sent ya all the time, incessantly, actually, probably in my childhood. So
that's so fun.
Brought it on myself.
I like it. It's a great nickname.
Thank you.
Let's set the stage of where we are, because this is kind of fun. We're in. Does anyone know what this place is called? This yurt thing?
I think it's the Outdoor Experience Learning Center.
It's really neat. It's. I think Travis, the race director, said it's one of the largest yurts. It's either in the United States, the largest yurt in the United States, maybe in this state. I don't remember which one, but it's really cool. And we're sitting under a little gazebo thing that's actually a pathway towards the bathroom. And it's one of the only places that we could find that was far enough away from the band that's supposed to be starting up soon, that also has electricity, and it's quite the sight. People are going to be like ducking in here
I'm going to start charging for the bathroom pretty soon.
Ooh, see, that's why they call you Large Mars. Those are big ideas right there.
That's right. She's in charge.
Hey, actually, if you just want to conduct the podcast, I'll just take the night off. That would be sweet.
All right, Chris, you ready?
Yeah. Let's do this. We were rambling forever about bikes earlier, so we can do this.
And take it away, Maggie. So do you go by, what do most people call you? What do your friends call you? Do they call you Mars? They call you Large Mars? They call you
Both Marge or Maggie. And then usually at races when I meet people for the first time, they don't actually know my name's Maggie. So I answer to Large Marge anytime.
I love it. That's so much fun. So I'll have to find my own personal groove with where I land on Large. I'm just going to play with it and see what comes out naturally.
I'll answer to all of it.
Excellent. Well, I posted some pictures of y'all on social media yesterday. I was driving around. Y'all saw me out there popping out of the woods with my camera, scaring people. And I got so many messages from so many different people about both of y'all. And I actually wrote down a couple just for fun. So Travis Jolly said,
"Oh yeah,
that dude with a beard is an East Texas legend."
Tennessee.
What did I say?
Texas.
Oh my gosh. Let's fix that.
He's trying to claim the legend.
No.
He's trying to claim the legend in Texas too.
These are how legends start.
No. I want to be the East Texas. That was my own Freudian slip. The East Tennessee legend. He has taught me the ways of single speeding here in the mountains. And Travis Jolly actually came down to my event on a single speed and was making some geared people look silly at the beginning. Everybody was like, "What the fuck?" It was really interesting. Nobody around,
He was the man in black.
Yeah, nobody knew who he
told me.
was. I was out there with my camera. I took a picture and something looked a little funny. I zoomed in and I was like, "Yep, he doesn't have any gears and he's leading this race." And like Dennis and Kuya are fast. I mean, these guys are roadies. They're racing roadie types. And I talked to him later, like, we couldn't catch him. It was anyway. So that's what Travis said.
Yep.
Maggie, Zachary Grass said, Maggie is a total badass and I highly recommend talking to her. So both of y'all, like, people were like, "Oh, you got to talk to him. You got to talk to him. You got to talk to him." So, like, fill in the blanks for me, getting to know you guys. Like, what is it that your friends are talking about? What makes you a legend? Why are you a badass? What have you done leading up before GRUSK? Obviously, we're going to talk about this event that we're doing today. But, yeah, what are some of the things that y'all have done previously?
Maggie?
Who wants to go first?
Well, the pressure's on.
I think, Maggie, you won Doom this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do know that about you.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, women's. Women's side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually just started bikepacking last year, bikepack racing with the Arkansas High Country. I did the South Loop and won that. And then rolled into Doom. And I don't know, just keep adding more shit that people send to me on my list to do. So it's definitely a newer foray for me. Same with single speeding. Last year was my first full year of racing single speed. So, and
Wow.
same for this.
So what were you doing prior to like bikepack racing?
I've always been interested in the endurance stuff. So I did Michigan Coast to Coast, which was my first single speed race ever. That one's 200 miles across Michigan. And then I did the Gravel Worlds 300. So those are, and then High Country. Those were the first three single speed races that I'd done. Before that was mostly mom and pop races near our area with a lot of climbing. I've always liked climbing.
So still a cyclist, just different genre of cycling.
Mm-hmm. I started cycling during COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was.
So you're new to cycling in general. Was that a COVID hobby? Were you one of the COVID babies?
We moved to Erie in 2019, and my uncle's a cyclist. And he said, "You're going to start cycling with me when you move here, and you have to ride 100 miles total before you can ride with me." I'm like, "Well, I got nothing else to do." So that's what I started doing, and it just kind of stuck.
What was your motivation to ride with him?
I didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure you talk to a lot of people and be like, yeah, I mean, if you could ride 100 miles, you can totally ride with me. And most people hear that and they are like, yep, I don't want to go that bad. Like, I don't want to go at all.
Yeah.
But your excuse is boredom, or your reason was boredom?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to do in Erie, and just moving back. I lived around there when I was a kid, but moving back as an adult, didn't really know anybody, had work, and started cycling to kind of learn my way around a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
Just as something to do. So,
that's cool.
Kill some time.
So as a new person to the sport of cycling, and even like ultra endurance, like bike pack racing and stuff, what is it that, pulled you in and has kept you here?
On social media, actually, I saw the 2019 High Country race. And I think it was Ted King and Ashley...
Carlock?
Yeah.
Carlock? Or?
Yep.
On Instagram, I noticed her name has changed, but I don't remember what it is, but I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to think of the new one.
Yeah. It starts with a W.
Yeah. And I watched that and I'm like, that's cool. I will do something like that one day. And that was it. So I just decided I would do some endurance bike packing.
Turns out you're good at it. Good at it. Why do you think that you're good at it? Are you working harder than other people? Are you tougher than other people? Like what? Yeah. Yeah. You have a lot of time on the bike to think about it.
That is true. I guess I've never really given that much thought to it. I think the ability to move on from whatever happens, like, oh, you crash. Okay, I'm fine. My bike's fine. You got to keep riding. And kind of having that mindset and attitude with anything. Well, I feel like shit. Well, I won't feel like shit forever. So get over it and keep going.
Yeah.
I guess
having
that's
that perspective.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like agree with that, having that perspective in life. It's a powerful tool.
It's helpful. I think it's sometimes hard to follow that and not dwell on whatever it is you want to dwell on. But
yeah, everything's always easier to say in a microphone than it is to actually do in the real world.
True.
We know what we're supposed to do, and when we think about it, we always know. But it's like, yeah, it's not always easy to get it right, and sometimes races don't always go right either. All right, Chris, what makes you the East Tennessee legend?
Yeah, I mean, somebody else could answer that one better.
I know, it's
quads of steel.
You know how
yes.
that goes.
Beard of
ride your bike a lot and don't shave for years, and you'll have these legs, and you might have this beard.
Yeah.
No, really. I picked up bikes again. About 10, 12 years ago. Whatever early midlife crisis thing. And all I had was a single speed, so that's just what I rode. And I wasn't riding 20 miles, would be a lot. And but my mom was doing these charity rides along with my sister, brother, everybody else. And I was like, I should be able to do that. Like, come on, I'm like 30 something. And so I finally kind of kicked myself in the pants and got going, and remembered that I love bikes. So that got me into it. And then the single speed thing really stuck with the mountain biking too. And so endurance. It's kind of always been my thing. If you're not going to be fast, then you need to at least be able to go for a long time.
I don't know. Y'all were pumping out pretty good at the start of the race yesterday.
Well, that's trained, right? It's like I didn't just roll out of bed one day and like become quick or fast or able to do this for a long time. But yeah, no, and to me...
I'm glad you said that. I think that's an important thing that people gloss over is like,
oh yeah,
this didn't just happen. I've been doing this and working at it and being disciplined and consistent for a very long time. And guess what? At the end of that,
right,
you can ride your bike okay.
Like I said, 20 miles was like a big deal once upon a time. So, no, and then, and it kind of This is why I let you go first, Maggie, so I could just jump off of what you said. No, seriously, I might have a little bit of a stubborn streak. And so that pays dividends if you're going to ride a bike with one gear. And so, yeah, it's, I like it to be hard.
Yeah.
I want to see if I can do it. At the end of it, I want to be like, wow, I didn't think I could. And man, I knocked that thing out, or at least I survived to tell the story, you know? And that's what I alluded to, well, what I said earlier is like, I do this for the stories, for the experiences, the people you meet, the things like that. But it's also fantastic for headspace. At least for me, it's my therapy. It's my processing time.
No.
So like I did a thing where I rode every day for like 3 years till I broke my arm.
Oh.
I was like, I am going to ride my bike just to see if I can. And now that was obsessive. Not everybody needs to do that. And I don't need to do it again. But it was really good, that consistency, and just gave me kind of this anchor. So maybe these are things I need in my head. But I need to do hard things and experience things.
Yeah.
So,
do you tend to enter events? What are some other events that you've done?
Oh, yeah. Backstory and stuff like that. As far as like, I started off more with like just hard mountain biking and a lot of the Pisgah stuff.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of my friends would do, Pin Bar is one of the main ones that was a touchstone. But Eric Weber and all the Pisgah production stuff. So I started doing all of his, and those get into, they're one-day events, but then there's some of them, like he did a 36-hour event that was like, oh, wow, that sounds ridiculous. Sign me up. And so, yeah, I finished 2 stages. And then I finished 3. And then Eric coached me through it, like, come on, man. Like, don't sleep. You can go back out. You can do this. And it's amazing what you can make yourself do. So I started with stuff like that, but then the bike packing came on with probably Trans-North Georgia, because living in Tennessee, it's the closest one that's accessible. And so I went down and failed miserably once.
As in DNF?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, me and my buddy, we made it like 80 miles and some hurricane came in, and it's Georgia in August. And then we hightailed it out of there for like 40 miles, and that was it. Did the Grand Depart the next year, and anyways, eventually finished that, but I had the bug. And so I did the AMLX here in West Virginia.
I don't know that one. Oh, is it like the VLX?
So there's the Allegheny Mountain Loop.
Okay.
That you may have heard of, and that's a ACA route. And then the AMLX is a one-way trip from Blacksburg, Virginia, up to Fairfax, a little point of Maryland, and back. So, ironically or conveniently, we rode some of the same stuff yesterday. Oh. So, I grew up in West Virginia, so I love anything West Virginia. But that one was the first, like, oh my goodness. Like, this is 3 days, 500 miles. There were only like 6 people at the start. And so I spent the whole time by myself. And was like, it was kind of, honestly, it was scary.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm freezing out here. I didn't bring enough stuff. What am I going to do? I don't have enough food. The store's closed.
So true.
You become resourceful.
Yeah.
And you're not, if all goes well, you're not going to die out there. Anyways, you can persevere with a lot less than you think. And so I'm a planner, but still, be flexible and be resourceful.
Yeah.
And
You do as much planning as you can at home, but you got to be resourceful when things don't go according to plan.
yeah. So then what bike packing is then evolved, for me anyways, as it's almost this excuse or a way to see new places. So like Colorado Trail, and like Maggie talked about the Arkansas High Country, which I did in 21. And so just what's the next big one? So I'm always looking and scoping things out. And so, yeah.
I guess you said you're coming to East Texas, so
Yep.
it's not a next big one, but it's a fun one.
Yeah.
You'll do well out there. It's a good single speed course.
I don't know about that.
No?
It's a little flat.
But you don't.
But-
But you can pick a lower gear, right, and just
Right.
hammer it out.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you might be walking some hills, but
Travis talked me into that one, or sold it. He sold it real good to me, and and I'm a sucker for riding bikes with friends.
Yeah.
So road trip out there for that one for
That'd
sure.
be good.
And I haven't spent any time in Texas, so give it a try.
well, it's like you said. I mean, one of the coolest things for me has been introducing people to Texas through cycling, and so many people are coming
Right.
from out of state just because they say the same thing you did. I've never been to Texas. I'm kind of curious what you hear about it all the time, and it's a great way to go and see a lot of Texas, and it's why I'm creating 3 routes. I don't know if you know, but I'm doing the East, Central, and West Texas because it's too big to get it all in one.
It's a pretty big state, yes.
Yeah, so we'll do it in 3. But, all right, good introductions, both of you. Thank you. Now I feel like I really know you. Why single speed? Everybody has a why for single speed.
All the reasons. Everybody should at least try single speed.
Absolutely.
I always say that. I'm like, you have this preconception. I can't ride single. I don't know how you do that. Well, when you were a little kid, your bike only had one gear, and if you couldn't get up the hill, you got off, you walked it for a second. But it's a real pure way of riding, right? You don't have to think about, oh, geez, did I shift before the hill, on the hill? No, just go ride your bike. And so there's something, just real simple and basic about it that I really love. Maybe I'm a little bit of a masochist, or I don't know what they say, or dense, that Maggie said it about the climbing. Like, I love climbing. Decided at one point, people like to, I don't like to climb. The climbs are so, I'm like, I don't have time, or I don't want to spend time in that headspace. So practice climbing, get good at climbing, and then you can ride your single speed anywhere you want.
Yeah.
So.
And you let's go like that mental energy that you're always spending. Did I shift? Should I shift? Can I climb it? Should I hammer harder? You kind of take that away.
Right. Yeah.
All right, Maggie.
Yeah. I think a lot of the same reasons. I kind of like the, what do I have in me today when you get out on the single speed? Because there's some days that you're going to be able to climb the hill, and there's some days that you're not. And that's fine. And I think some of it comes down to headspace. But I also, after having started riding single speed, kind of fell in love with, I think of it like an art form. Because you have to analyze your course, think about what you're doing, what it looks like, think about your gearing. It's never going to be right for everything, obviously. So the majority of the ride, you look at how do I best choose the gear for what I'm doing. And it comes with studying the map, studying the route, all those little pieces that come together in the route planning. And I think that's a piece that I really, really fell in love with single speeding.
Do you ever get frustrated when you pick the wrong gear?
100%.
Always. It's either always the right gear or always the wrong gear.
Yeah, you have like 300 to 1,000 miles to think
Yep.
about the one thing that, the one wrong gear that you chose. Do you ever get frustrated by single speeding in other ways, like when you're on a flat and you want to be going flat faster but can't, or is it just more of a mental shift where you're like, okay, take a break?
I get frustrated.
Give you that answer
I've learned to kind of calm those demons a little bit and like just self-talk, I guess. But when you're spun out and you're spun out for like, I don't know, what was that going into Parson?
That was a
like,
long section.
like 50 minutes of like, I can't really put pressure on the pedals. Like, I'm just spinning. So what you have to do is go, oh, well, this is recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
Forced
I'm
recovery.
just going to recover and I'm going to take in the scenery. But that's also why I don't want to go ride in Florida. I would like to be in the mountains. So
We got a little bit more hills in Florida, but not much. It's actually hillier than people think on anyway. All right. Any other thoughts on single speed before I move on, Maggie?
No, I agree. I think everybody should try it.
Yeah.
yeah,
I do too. I don't think it's as hard as people think either. There's parts that are harder. Well, also, this is coming from a guy that lives in Texas, and I don't have big mountains and stuff, so mine would take with a grain of salt, but it's not. I need to go to like high country and try single speed, and then I can really talk.
yeah, that's a special one for it.
Yeah.
You know. So no, it's good stuff. So that's all I have. So people like to be like, oh yeah, you brought your single speed, and I'm like, well, I brought my bike. So it's as silly as a silly does, and that's what I got. So
All right. What gear did you pick for GRUSK, and what was it the right gear ratio?
I would have to do the math. I ran a 32-18 with a 2x1 tire. I've been looking in gear inches because I switched from tire size last year, so I know that's about 51.1 gear inches. I went from 650B to 29. So to figure out what my gearing was, I had to look at gear inches instead of ratios because they're a little different from tire size. Again, that whole nerd thing, art thing, whatever you want to call it. I'm there.
There's a little bit of both in there, yeah.
Big time. I know I work part-time in a bike shop, and they all say that I'm the biggest nerd they've ever met when it comes down to all this stuff. I
Seems to be
actually
working
really
out. All the like mental energy you're putting in is like it's probably attributing to your success to some extent.
It does, yeah. And I like to take my time and figure that out. I definitely like that gear. I hit a rough patch, and so I took some time walking some of the hills that I think were definitely climbable with that gearing. But I'd say overall, if I came back, I'd probably run a similar or the same gear.
and you almost had me convinced about learning gear inches, but I'm a little bit of a Luddite, and I like the simplicity. So yeah, so I always think ratios, and so the bike that I brought, I run 50C tires on it all the time, and it's the one that I did high country on, and so I'm always thinking like, what did I run for high country? What did I run for X? You know. And I ran 3820, which is the same thing that I tend to have on this bike, which climbs pretty well, but then I can also get some speed. I ran 3821 last year for the GRUSK 220 and made myself a little note that you might be able to do 3820 and go faster. Yeah, it hurt more. I'm
Yeah,
sure
remember
it
when
did.
he said he was a masochist?
I might have enjoyed it more on the flats a little bit. So no, I'd probably do it again.
The
honestly.
masochist and you should do 3819 next year.
Yeah.
Like you've already
You're-
done it at 30,
you're-
3820, man. So I
You're
don't
getting in
know.
my head, Patrick.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Careful, it's dangerous.
It's scary in there.
Right.
So you think you'd run the same gear next year, probably?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think the harder gear was probably better because I was able to clean almost all the hills except for that heinous gravel one early. Thomas Mountain. If anybody ever wants to come do the 260, just be forewarned. It's brutal. But I was able to clean all the other ones. You get into like a cadence of like 40? I don't know. I mean, tremendously slow
Yeah.
on some of this stuff. But if I can
You're
turn
just
it over,
barely
I'm happy.
churning it.
Yeah. So it's
Just,
good.
But that's what those thighs are for.
right?
Yeah. That's
Stand up. You use your body weight.
yeah.
So
All I got to do is get that crest and lean in on it. All right. Y'all both did the 260 route. And so you mentioned that you've done the 220 before.
correct.
Maggie, have you done either of these before?
No.
Okay. So two different
first time down
questions then. What events have you done previously? Like what routes have you done previously? And why did you decide to do the 260 this year?
So framed as per GRUSK.
For GRUSK,
Yeah. In particular, GRUSK has been around for quite a while. And
This is number 8, I believe.
Yeah, so if people don't know, that's the gravel ride up Spruce Knob, Spruce Knob being the highest point in West Virginia. So really neat. And so it started off, though, as a gravel race and like a kind of a standard straight up, I think it was a 80 always. He might have had a shorter distance as well, but a one-day event kind of thing. And then he picked up, Travis started the bike packing business, the bike packing options maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so I kept pinging him, hey, you need a single speed class. And he's like, well, I don't know if I have enough interest. And so I bugged him for 2 or 3 years, and then he finally created one. So he called my bluff. So I came last year and did the 220, which was the long one, the Venti, I think he calls it. And then for this year, he added 40 miles kind of to the beginning of it to create the 260 Lungo course. So, and it's a really beautiful course. It's really neat, really nicely spaced out, very quiet. So uses a little bit of rail trail and some things like that. Also a little single track and some really heinous roads. But you don't have to play with traffic. So it's nice.
Yeah. All right. And so you haven't done the GRUSK before. This is your first time out here.
It is.
Yeah. So then, how did you hear about it? Why did you come out here? And yeah.
I think my friend Steve did the 85 last year and had said it was a nice event. There aren't a lot of bigger overnighter options near the Erie area, unless you really want to go, big distances. So it was nice to have one relatively close to home. And I think I had originally signed up for the 220 because I think the 260 came later after registration had opened. And then as soon as he opened it, I transferred my registration to the 260. I figured if I'm going to come down here, I might as well go for it.
You are a single speeder at heart.
Well, and you both have done, much longer events than this. So I would assume, do you just kind of always default to the longest one, or?
This is still all new. This is my second year doing the races. So I figure whatever kind of sounds fun, I'll just do it. Okay.
That's your approach?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whichever one sounds fun.
Yeah.
Define fun. Like what is it about a route that, what about this one? Yeah. Let's talk about this one since we're here. What was it about this one that was like, oh, that's fun. I want to do that. See how this music does in the background.
I like the idea that he offered it as a 3 or a 2 day. So you could tour it or race it. And I agree wholeheartedly with Chris. It's such a cool way to see places, although half of it's in the dark.
Right. The touring might work better. I'm
sure it was very beautiful at 2 o'clock in the morning. But actually that fog this morning was incredibly beautiful. So watching the sunrise like that in the middle of some random woods somewhere, just totally gutted, I kind of find a pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
And so I like to do that in different places, and I get to explore a little bit more.
So why this one is it's local, it's a longer distance, beautiful area.
Happened to fit in my schedule. Had some friends doing it.
Yeah. So what were your goals? What was your strategy? Was it just to have fun, or did you come here to
I had
kick
wanted to
everyone's
come
ass.
in and try to shoot for 28 hours was my goal, and I have no idea where that came from. I always kind of give myself an arbitrary sticking point to try to work towards. It helps keep me on pace, and I think that sometimes helps with that stubbornness, to keep pushing through. So that was kind of my only goal, but I think overarching is just always just a finish.
Yeah.
Except I totally was going to bail on that.
But
We'll get into that. Why you said arbitrary 28 hours, but then you're very nerdy with your gear ratio. I bet it's not arbitrary. I bet you have some math that you're doing to get to that number.
Yeah, I guess I kind of do. I figure I look at the climbs, the grades on the climbs, how often they're coming on the course, and I figured if I ride-wise was averaging around a 10 and a half with stops, that should hit that 28-hour mark. So I guess it isn't arbitrary at all.
Well, it's your own method. It's
Yeah.
not like there's a rule book or something where, you went off like last year's times and you just figured it out for yourself.
Yeah.
What was your time this year?
I think I ended up with 30 hours and 35 minutes.
Right.
A little bit off.
All right, your turn, Chris.
I did. So it really goes back to doing the 220 last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the 220 was quite a learning experience because I didn't know anybody who had done it single. And so what I tend to do is go and look and well, how fast did somebody else do it? And so I'll try to figure it kind of that way. Then you can do the average speed, which is also a really, really good way, but I had no idea. So I packed enough stuff in case last year might have taken me 36 hours. I took a puffy jacket. I took the stuff in case I needed to sleep.
Oh.
And then but just kept pushing, and next thing I knew, it took 20 hours. So I was
God.
like, so this is a race. This isn't just bike packing. This is we could put the hammer down.
Yeah.
And so from last year,
like Large Marge said, we're gonna throw a new one in there. One of the cool things about the event is that you can bike pack it, bike camp it essentially, or you can throw the hammer down, which is a fun way to,
oh, totally
mix the two in one event.
Yeah, and I'll for half a second just say that I tend to be the one who wants to push the limit. I want to see how fast can I do that. And that's not the only way to do it. A lot of people have a great time coming out and doing these, and I think it's should be said, coming out and touring this is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
People that really get to see it, and heck, they're out there longer than I am, so one might even say that it's harder to go out and tour it. Anyway, so back to what you initially asked about. I figured if I could do the 220 in 20 hours, that if we're going to add 40 miles, if everything went great, it could be 24. But I told myself anything 28 or 30, I would be really happy with. So I was actually on pace to break 24, wound up at 24:50, I think.
Oh wow.
So I'm plenty happy with that.
Yeah, I'm saying, oh wow. Last night when we were talking, I think I did the math wrong in my head because I was like, oh, you did it in 24 and you were tired. I think you're like, yeah. But then later on, you went and looked and you're like, oh dang.
Have you heard of bike packing math?
Yes.
So everybody who rides the bike and you're doing all this extended math about average speeds, It's all incorrect. Every bit of it.
Yes.
Yeah, the simplest math problem becomes the hard. It can be frustrating because you're just talking to your brain like, bro, you know how to do this. Why can't you make this make sense in your
I was
head?
multiplying 13 times 12.5 while I was riding. I mean, you got plenty of time.
That is true.
Why not? Anyway.
When I came in this morning and they asked what my finishing time was, I looked at my watch and I said 11:30. But it was after we were talking and sitting there. I'm like, it's 11:30 right now. And then I walked away. And then I had to come back. I'm like, no, finished at 10:30. I don't know. I was telling you what time it was. She's like, no, I understand.
Yeah,
And then
right.
she goes back later. She was like, I actually finished last night. I don't know. I don't know what I was doing.
It was 6 o'clock yesterday.
You're right. It was a course record. That's really weird.
So what did y'all think about the route? You touched on it a little bit, so we'll let Maggie. We'll go Maggie this time. I'm going to confuse myself.
Keep me on my toes.
Myself or the audience with this one. But yeah, what were your takeaways? This was your first time here.
Yeah.
So what did you think about the area and the course, the event, any of it?
It's beautiful. It definitely reminds me a lot of, I mean, we're in the Monongahela State Forest, the Allegheny National Forest up in Pennsylvania, and Vermont as well, because it's a lot of rolling hill farm country. And so that did make me think of Vermont. I really liked the course. I think we were kind of talking this morning, Chris and I think it would be really cool to tour it, because there were some of the roads that we hit at night that were pretty technical, or more technical riding, and that would be nice to see during the day, but I think there's just some element of fun to do those kind of things at night too. It was a lot more technical than I was expecting. I said it when I came in. I think I really underestimated the course, because I looked at mileage to feet. It was about 85 feet per mile, and I didn't look at much else than that. I'm like, that's not bad at all. And they were long, steep climbs.
Yeah, a bunch of hour-long
So did you not
climbs.
factor in the like it was flatter than you in some sections, so that made the overall ratio different?
Yeah. And I just didn't expect the climbs to be as long as they were. I mean, there were a couple that were a good, 2-3 miles of climbing that you were getting in there. The descents were just as fun because they were just as long. But I don't know why in my head I wasn't expecting them to be that long and steep, long climbs. But it's really beautiful.
Is it more beautiful than hard, or more hard than beautiful?
It's a good one.
I think that was a pretty solid ratio, a 50-50 split.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a sweet spot right there.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the course.
Any other thoughts on, I mean, you keep coming back, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for West Virginia. So yeah, I mean, it's just a really wonderful tour of this area, really. And yeah, I think it may be even prettier than it is hard. But that's relative, right? There's things like Trans-North Georgia has pieces that are, that climbs that are definitely harder. And I would say high country has climbs that are harder.
Yeah.
And some terrain that's more rugged. So, yeah.
I'd like to get y'all's thought. I mean, I didn't get to ride it. I was just out driving around. I actually did a bike packing trip here in like 2018 or 2019. Some of the same roads. Like I went to Spruce Knob Lake on my trip when I was up here. But it reminds me a lot of like Arkansas. And my thought was like, because it's very green, it's very hilly, a lot of water. But Arkansas just seems a little more rugged. And a little more challenging, and so I actually felt, I was like, this one I actually would maybe lean towards personally, wanting to come and just bike pack it. Did y'all feel the similarities?
There it is. I'll jump in real quick. That I think there are definitely similarities when you're talking about Appalachian Mountains, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have those similarities in there, and like the Arkansas high country, yeah, I think it's a little bit more rugged, like I said earlier. But I found a lot of similarities between Arkansas and then like East Tennessee, where I'm from, the East Tennessee, North Carolina, and Georgia mountains. It's like a book folded in the spine on the Mississippi. I mean, it's the same stuff in Arkansas. But West Virginia is a tiny bit, it sounds ironic to say, but it's a little softer.
Yeah.
In a good way, like it makes it a little more enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, and we should say just this course too. I'm sure it could be
Oh,
meaner
sure.
if somebody
That's
wanted
true.
it meaner.
No, I talked to Travis about that, and he told me specifically that he doesn't want it to be super gnarly. He wants, he doesn't want to make it hard just for the sake of making it hard, and that's the cool thing about races is they can all be different, and that's how his is, and I dig it. I'm not as masochistic as you are. I like to do hard things, but not like the hardest. I don't need it on expert level,
That's why there's chocolate and vanilla.
That's right, man. Man, I don't know how this music will do. See, let's talk about how your individual races went. I was blown away by the pace at the beginning of the race from everybody, but especially y'all, because y'all single speeders were up in the pack, early on. Maggie, I know you said you were thinking about throwing in the towel. You've got a big bandage on your arm. Let's start with you. Oh, and your phone's about to fall out of your pocket, it looks like.
Thanks.
Yeah. So how'd your race go?
Overall, it was good. I think that's the nice thing about any kind of race like this is there's so many highs and lows that you go through. You finished it, and that's the biggest high of all, to be able to just have that. The beginning pace was a blast because I think that the three single speeders, we found each other pretty quickly. Well, Chris, you were way ahead for a while, and we caught up. And so the three of us stuck together for a while, and we were just having kind of fun picking people off for a bit, and all just feeling really good, really strong. And the climbs at the beginning were fast. I feel like those were a little bit shorter. The gravel was really smooth. Everything was really great. And so it was a faster pace at the start of that. It was kind of, I feel like the bigger climbs came a little bit after that first bit. After Thomas Mountain, it starts to get a little bit longer climbs, steeper climbs. So that was an absolute blast. We were coming, we had all kind of split off by that point. We probably at maybe mile 40, 50, something like that. And so I was coming down, there's a steep descent coming down, long descent after the fire tower, which is part of the 60 miles that got added on from the 220. And they were, cutting down trees, whatever it's called, doing the forestry work.
Logging.
And one of the machines, the guy started it up right as I was kind of coming around the bend, and it sort of lurched a little bit, like it wasn't going to come out in the road, but it scared me. And I realized that at that point I was not remotely paying attention to what I was doing, but I swung wide and my back tire caught loose gravel and I went down. And Chris and I were laughing about it. You kind of jump up really quickly. You're like, I'm okay. Bike's good. Hop back on and kept riding.
Did people see you, Rick?
No, I think I was by
people?
myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at that point.
I pop up faster if someone's watching.
Yeah,
What mileage was that at?
Oh man, maybe
About
75, something
pretty
like
early
that.
on,
Yeah, it was pretty.
yeah.
It was pretty early. And I
That's right, because
decided
by the
not
time
to
I
look
saw
at
you
it.
at Cass, you were bloody. I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I didn't look at it because I'm like, it hurts, but then I'll just it probably looks worse than it is. And so I could feel the blood running down my arm, but I'm like, it'll dry up. So kind of keep rolling, and it was really enjoyable. I think the sections up there were some of my favorite because you were in more forest road, some muddy sections, just kind of climbing and descending, but just all forest. It was really, really beautiful. And the fire tower was pretty cool to see. I've actually had my name on a wait list to stay at that fire tower for a year.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
I have not gotten the call yet. If anybody hears this.
Put in a good word for me. Put in a good word for your elbow, though. I'm curious, how bad was it after all?
There is a lot of gravel in my arm.
Yeah.
But
How painful was it when you were riding? Is it one of those things where kind of the pain waited until you were done, or did it sink in?
No, it hurt pretty bad, but
Yeah.
I think because I hit my hip So every time I would sit on my saddle for a while, I was sitting on a bruise. So that kind of hurt worse than my arm. But I put my arm warmers on, which stuck to the blood, and so peeling those off.
Yeah, that didn't look.
Yeah,
that didn't look.
that
fun.
would kind of hurt.
Yeah, I watched you do it.
But all
fun.
in all, I have.
It's like a big ass Band-Aid.
Yeah, I know it's it won't stay on, but I'll have some nice chunks of gravel to pick out of my arm as it heals up. Not too bad.
Maybe your body will just reject them and it'll start pinging out of your body. That'd be kind of cool. The body is amazing. All right, so how'd the rest of it go after all that?
It was good. I think Chris and I ran into each other at the Dollar General at
right.
85.
Yep, in Green Bank.
Yep. And I was feeling great at that point.
Why didn't you stop at that general store? You said they didn't have water?
Yeah, so I ran in and they had absolutely no water.
Weird.
Yeah.
That is such a weird thing not to have at a convenience
Yeah.
store.
Because I thought I'd fill up my
I
reservoir.
thought that's what
and
you said, but I was like, no, they had to have water.
Not a single bottle of water there.
Welcome to Arkansas, or welcome to
Wherever we are.
That's,
West Virginia. Could be Arkansas too, you know?
Yeah, Cass doesn't have much.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but
Dollar
it was,
General
it was your purchase at the Dollar General that might have changed
Yeah.
your ride.
I think
Oh.
that did it because I was trying to load up easy stuff. I swear by Uncrustables. That's my favorite thing to eat on rides. But I picked up a box of. So we had to pack for. Let's see, that was mile 85. Our next stop was around mile 170. So it was a little bit of mileage. So I bought a box of strawberry shortcake cake rolls. And I probably ate 4 of those in pretty quick succession, and my stomach just went to hell after that. And so I actually really struggled getting food down. And
You think they were bad, or?
No, I think I just ate too many. I probably should have spaced it out with some other stuff. And it was just like a sugar gut bomb.
Yeah.
So I spent a solid, I would say probably 70 miles, just horribly nauseous, and rolled into, but my not moving bad. I was still pedaling and overall felt pretty good on the bike. I was just starting to have trouble eating. So by the time I hit Parsons was 170, I went into the gas station, got some drinks, and I had told myself before that if you were still there, then I was gonna put my bike in the back of your rental car and get and get a ride back.
At mile 170?
Yeah.
What time did you get there?
Oh, I have no idea. It was
You got there about
9:30?
9:15. You
Yeah.
were 10 miles behind me
That's
when
so
I was
funny.
at
okay.
McDonald's.
Yeah, so maybe close to 10, quarter.
Side note, I was actually headed up there. It's Parkins? Is that the name of the
Parsons.
town? Parsons, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay, so I was headed up to Parsons, and then my rental car, the check engine light came on. So I took it to an AutoZone in the closest town, which was Elkins. And then I had to communicate with the rental place, be like, what do I do? I can't fix your car for you. I'm 3.5 hours. So I was actually on my way up there to do the race, to photograph the race and just follow it. And I got stuck in Elkins messing with that stuff. And so I almost was there.
It was probably a good thing.
I'm glad I wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is absolutely no cell phone service.
I've
in
never
this
given
area.
anyone a ride off course when I was media, and I really never want to. Not to say I would have,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have, but that's I don't know. It makes me feel bad because then you're the easy out, and now
That's
you're
true.
saying I wish you weren't because it made me finish, right?
Yeah.
So it would make me feel guilty. Anyway,
I wouldn't have been mad. But no, I called my 2 friends that are doing the race, and they had no cell service. And so I called my wife, and I was like, well, I feel like absolute shit, and I don't want to do this anymore. And she was like, well, that's too bad because you're out there, and it's only 90 miles. And preface that with she's the best, worst motivational person to call in a race when you're feeling really bad. but she will get you motivated.
No sympathy?
None at all. Like
beautiful.
right when you need it. Yeah, it's perfect. I remember calling her from Gravel Worlds, and I was walking up a hill, just feeling like crap, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, I'm having a really bad time. She goes, oh, you know who's having a bad time? Everybody behind you. They're having a bad time too. And so
maybe she just
it
needs to
works.
record it, and people could
should.
play this whenever they're feeling loud. You know who else hurts? Everybody else out there hurts.
She should. That can be a nice little side income.
Yeah, I like it.
So I went back inside. I got some more drinks. I bought a bunch of ice cream because I got 2 push pops down, and headed out from there. So I don't like to take long breaks and sit at stops. I'll eat on my bike for most everything. So I shoved down the ice cream and took everything else with me. And my stomach never came back. I ended up walking a lot of the next couple sections because it was, what's it called? Canaan Loop?
Yeah, Canaan Loop.
Canaan Loop.
Yeah, by Blackwater Falls.
And
It's
that's
special.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's all ATV trails, but it is rugged. And that was in the dark, which was actually super cool to ride it like that. I'd like to see it during the day, but it was a lot of fun. And then shortly thereafter, there are just 2, and they're pavement, but long, steep climbs. And I struggled, and I walked probably 80% of all that, which was frustrating because, at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm finishing this race, so there goes my pace goal a little bit. And I'm like, maybe I can bring it back.
Were you walking did you not have strength because you didn't have calories?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just really
It was
still
nausea
nauseous
too,
the whole
so
time.
just a combination.
Yeah.
You had
But-
nothing.
No, yeah. I had nothing in my legs, just kept moving.
We can also quantify that those are like the 2 hardest climbs on the course. They are paved, but they
Yeah.
hit at a bad time.
They do.
They're miserable. Yeah.
So it was a lot of mental. Actually, that was probably the best thing ever. I was going to say kind of mental frustration at that point, but you're like, the only way that I can get back is if I keep going. So at the same time, it was kind of good. And then I hit a rhythm after that and brought my pace back quite a bit. I was able to get some food down. I just did sips of water for probably a good 2 hours, and that's all I could get in. And slowly started coming back, and I ate an Uncrustable, and obviously that brings you back to life.
That fixes everything.
And it was not my most amazing climb up Spruce Knob, but I climbed, I think, everything else the rest of the race, and still finished it. So I'm not too sad about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you weren't that far behind your pace goal, right? And you dealt with some things that you certainly weren't planning on.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? So for the listener, you do, I don't know what mileage comes out. You probably do about 240 miles before you start heading up to Spruce Knob, and then you come back down. So the route takes you literally on an out and back to the highest point in West Virginia, and then straight back down, and then you finish the race, and he leaves it for the very end. Any thoughts on that experience?
I'm actually, for the time that I finished, really glad that it was at the end, because it was so foggy this morning. I mean, you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you on a lot of the
Down in the
of the
valley.
route. Yeah, it was a little scary kind of doing some of those descents with it so foggy, because you could hear the deer out and you weren't sure if they were going to run. So all the fog had lifted when I got up to Spruce Knob. So I got some great pictures up there.
Oh, nice.
So I was excited about that. I think I like the idea that he does it at the beginning of, or excuse me, at the end of this race compared to the beginning of the other distances. Because it was motivating to have some people up on the hill and, cheering as you're kind of coming in. It was a bit of a cluster as well, but it's always nice.
You got
to,
some racies mixed in with some people that have been out there and haven't slept.
Yeah.
It's a different vibe.
That is for sure. But it was really cool to see, everybody excited to start their their ride and everything like that. And man, some of the people hammering up Spruce Knob was impressive.
Yeah, man, you did hit it right at the right time to be able to yes, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a cluster, it sounds like, but also pretty cool. You don't have to worry about any mental stimulation. You got a lot going on, a lot of people to watch, other cyclists to get you stoked, and that's a cool perspective. Did you sleep at all? Did you take any naps?
Oh, I took 3 Brett naps. And that's coined.
Yeah, tell everyone what a Brett nap is. I just found out.
Brett Stepanek will do naps during his races and leaves his helmet on and lays down next to his bike just somewhere on the trail. And you pick your clothing, whether or not you're going to wear a jacket based on how long you want to nap. So you don't want to get too comfortable if it's going to be a short one. So I did 1 7-minute nap and 1 5-minute nap. And that was it. And one of them, I started falling asleep on my bike and tipped over and just decided while I was laying there, I'd do a quick nap. So I pulled my phone out, set my alarm for 5 minutes, and got a good nap in.
Falling asleep on your bike, ultimately falling off your bike as a result, is a good indication that maybe
it's
5 minutes
time.
is. I wonder if I should. Yeah, I think now is a good time to take a nap.
I don't know why I picked 5 minutes or 7 minutes, or I think during Doom there was an 11-minute nap in there.
Yeah,
just random times, like to keep you on your toes. Yeah,
like you're just. What does my mind? What does my body need right now? Totally 11. 11 is solid,
but it definitely wasn't 30.
Nope.
That isn't gonna work.
All right, Chris. How did your race go?
It was good. I mean, yeah, it went pretty
good.
well.
Okay, podcast over.
Oh no, I'll be glad to talk about it.
Let's hear it, buddy.
Because no, it never goes to plan.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it interesting. It was very fun at the beginning. That we were all with a group, and I knew not to go out too hard, but we're all stoked. So we're all like getting on it. I know we didn't ride that hard later. I mean, come on. But it was real fun and steady early on. And aside from some of the stuff I already mentioned, that really kind of kick you in the teeth and make you realize, oh, we're doing this a long time. We're gonna have to back off. It was it was good. It was steady. I managed to, so I got to the Dollar General, and then that's right, because I saw you for a second, Patrick, and then so I knew that Maggie was coming and was like, well, I want to at least high five, and then it hit the road out of there, and it was a little warm, but overall it was a really pretty day, and it was overcast in the morning, which helped an awful lot. So I probably didn't eat quite enough. I know I drank like 2 bottles in 4 hours. That's not great. But anyways, I won't go into too much detail with all that. I barely stayed on top of my nutrition. And I knew I wasn't doing a great job of it, but managed to hold it together okay.
Why were you struggling with that? Did you just forget? Did you not have the resupply you needed? Or
I really wasn't. You get to where, well, I'd forgotten to bring the peanut butter sandwich that I was supposed to make. I'm terrible about this stuff. You'd think, but that I would bring everything.
Turns out your subconscious is also masochistic.
Right.
And intentionally making it harder on you. So your conscious brain, it's like,
like, oh, well, let's see how he does with half of his fuel
and no water.
So yeah, I didn't really drink enough. I didn't eat as much as I could, but the truth is your effort level, or at least this is for me, effort level kind of comes down after your body gets used to, oh, we're going to do this for a long time. So you don't need quite as much, and you kind of all zone 1, 2 stuff. I mean, it was really nice having done the route before, so I also knew what to expect for the couple big climbs. So I was real excited for the Bickle Knob, I think it is a really cool climb before you get to Parsons. And Parsons is, Maggie talked about it earlier. Parsons is the first place where it's like you can get some fast food and stuff like that. And I don't do fast food on the daily, but bike packing, Oh yeah, I wanted some fries like nobody's business, and McDonald's came through clutch. So that was super good and kind of got me stoked and relit my fire to get some real food, not just eating more candy bars. And so everything was going pretty well at that point, cruising up to Davis. I had made it through Canaan Loop last year before it got dark, and that was really nice because we were talking about Canaan Loop's just rowdy. And so in the dark, it's just going to be slower. But I kind of made peace with that. So rode a lot of that stuff in the dark. It was getting a little cold. But kind of once you do Canaan Loop, then you're back onto those heinous road climbs. But there's nothing technical. And then it's just like, just settle down and just get in it and grind it out. Started to get a little tired, but 5-hour energy always comes through clutch. So that helped me along. And
I'm trying to get a Red Bull sponsorship personally, but that's good. We're not competing for energy drink.
And like, it's funny you mentioned that because there was a impromptu aid station somewhere around mile 135, I think.
Just like on someone's yard.
Yeah.
With like an umbrella.
Yeah, the umbrella
I saw
spot. Yeah, and so they weren't real cold, but they were Red Bulls, and I don't ever drink Red Bulls, but and I had just had half of a 5-hour energy. Then I had a Red Bull. Oh my goodness, I couldn't feel my legs. In other words, like I couldn't feel the pain in them at all. And I was just dancing along.
That's because Red Bull gives you wings. Sponsor me, Red Bull.
That's what I kept saying to myself.
You just fly up the mountains.
So, anyways, later on, really, I felt pretty good energy wise. I was getting some electrolytes back in me, which helped. Muscles were kind of on the, hey, we could cramp if you keep pushing really hard. So I was pushing kind of at just the diesel pace, and but knocked out those couple the really nasty big paved climbs up from Dry Fork, and then you can smell the barn at that point. It's like, okay, we got around 40 miles to go, or 35 miles from the last little. Did you stop at the distillery?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so there's a really funky little place off route in the town of Job, and it's this wonderful little distillery, something hollow, and I wish I could get it right, but they sponsor GRUSK, and so they have an aid station there.
Spring Hollow.
Okay.
Dang,
And it's
teamwork.
really hard. It's really kind of hard and funky to find, but some friends showed it to me last year. So because I was out of water, and I'm like, okay, I'm at 35 miles with no water. No, this isn't going to work. And so filled up with water, and then it was, let's just knock this thing out. And then I do like the Spruce Knob being at the end as well. Like, I think it's this wonderful kind of like, okay, it's the namesake, it's the payoff, it's not the finish, but it's the last like real hard thing you're going to do. And then the beauty of it is that the climb isn't really that hard. I mean, it's long. There's no joke. It's going to take you a while to do it, but the grade is really nice. It's like a 4% grade.
Yeah.
3 to 4. Yeah. So I was flying up that, just excited to get it done. I'm so stoked. And, oh, man, I might be able to make 24 hours. Like, I'm going. And then I realized I'm not making 24 hours. And so I kind of chilled out. And the blessing, though, the hidden blessing there was that I realized I'm going to get up to the top right about 6 o'clock and the sky is lightening up. And then it was a beautiful, like, sunrise. It actually wasn't sunrise, but, like, the whole sky was like the day was breaking. As I came up Spruce Knob. So I sat there for a second, soaked it in. I was like, cool.
Yeah,
so
it's really pretty.
Yeah, that was just for you, buddy.
Yeah, well, hey, I'll take it.
In that moment it was.
Right? I'm like, okay, I really like to race, but let's soak this in. So that was good. Threw on a jacket, which is the first time I put on my jacket. but it was a cold descent.
No.
So, and then you have to climb a tiny bit to get back. That climb hurt. My legs were so done. I left my legs up on Spruce Knob.
After 260 miles and 250 in the last, I think Spruce Knob is like a 6-mile climb, something like that.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. And then so, but brought it home and just in time for breakfast. Travis does a wonderful setup, morning of race. So as everybody else was getting ready to race, I was coming in and eating all their breakfast, drinking all their coffee.
Yeah, that was funny. I was getting up to meet my day, and you were wrapping yours up, I guess.
Right? Delirious. Probably didn't have much to say, but I was there, sort of.
You were there in body.
Yeah, a shell of myself, as we say.
In spirit, you left your spirit and legs up at Spruce Knob as well. What was your favorite part of the route? This is for both of y'all. Favorite, most beautiful. What's your own personal favorite? And then what also was the most challenging part of the route? So the highs and the lows almost.
I'll start because I'm going to give the obscure answer. And I know this won't be your answer. I come from mountain biking, probably being my true love. I love gravel a lot now, but that Canaan Loop road has a lot of history to me when I was a little kid, and it's so engaging. I actually like Canaan Loop. People might kick me, but yeah. So that's probably one of my favorite parts. It's also favorite getting it done with.
Yeah,
but.
Other people I'd ask this question to, and they would put that as their least favorite, most challenging part. But the masochist here is showing his true colors once again.
I can't help myself. Then probably the part that I disliked the most was the flat section coming into Parsons, where I just couldn't make any headway.
As a single speeder, that's just got to be tough.
That and that rail trail section.
Yeah.
Oh, Greenbrier. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Beautiful though.
It was.
I've actually that was part of the route that I did whenever I bike packed here. I liked it as a geared person. It was very easy.
That's exactly what I thought many times. I'm like, well, geared people are probably like, this is the bee's knees. Now I get to make time.
Yeah.
Which I just got to recover, I guess.
Yeah, and then you made up the time on the climbs.
Yes. Give me more. Give me more climbs.
What do you got, Marge? Oh, I haven't called you Marge yet. What do you think, Marge?
I think two parts that I think were probably my favorite. One, and it's not course part, but at the beginning when the three of us were riding together, that I think set the stoke for the whole rest of the ride, because we just all left each other so pumped to see what came in the race. And I think it's super fun to have that. And like you touched on the community of people that bike pack.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's such a big takeaway from all the different rides. Course wise.
I'm sorry, just real quick. Who was the other single speeder?
His name is Cooper. And he was riding flat bars. His background's more single speed or single track. He's actually going to be at Trans North Georgia as well.
Awesome. Yeah, he's from Greensboro, North Carolina. Yep. It was real nice to meet him.
Yeah.
Single speeders unite.
Always do.
So it was fun. We had a lot of fun riding together. I think sunrise on a bike pack route is my absolute favorite. And I know there's some people that don't like it. I will never understand why. I know. And the sunrise this morning was absolutely gorgeous because the sun started coming up over the mountains and it was behind me just as the fog rolled in. So the fog was lower than the mountains and it was absolutely gorgeous and completely silent, completely dark. And so all you could see was just like the slice of light coming up behind me. And then I was in the rollers after you come off the pavement and hit the gravel, and you're in the gravel in the farms for a while, and it's just descending into the fog, and then you'd climb out of the fog and descend back into the fog. So I think for me that was my favorite part of the course, but it was wholly the just the whole experience of all of it. And I think that sun comes out, and that's just like fresh legs for me. And I'm gonna have to probably go with the Canaan Loop. I was so drained at that point. I would get on my bike and ride like 10 feet and get off and walk 20, and ride 4 feet and walk 17, whatever it is. And I finally hit a point and I was like, I am just gonna walk all this. Because there was some boggy, gross smelling water along there. Mm-hmm. And I was bushwhacking in these rhododendrons to get around it, because I did not feel like getting on my bike and having my shoes smell even worse than they already do and get them wet at that point. Because that's all I could think was,
you gotta do the 1 foot ratchet.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think in the daylight I would probably have an absolute blast on that, but it just so happened to be when I hit it, not being in a good headspace on that one. But the other that I actually liked was out of Parsons. I think it's the Allegheny Trail that you come into, and it was that real narrow trail. It was kind of overgrown, and you could just rip through it.
Oh, yeah.
And I hit that at dark, so it was completely pitch black, and I just ripped through that thing. That was really fun.
And it's such like a steady grade.
Yeah.
Like you don't really need to see what's coming up, because I had my light on low. It was just getting dark then too for me. Like just boogieing right along, grind it out.
Yeah, that was just a fun, unexpected section.
Awesome. Well, one thing that I like about this event is what I do at the East Texas Showdown, which is blend longer distance riding with shorter distance riding, and then throwing a party afterwards where everybody kind of finishes in a time where everybody can like enjoy it. So I think it's time to go party, unless we didn't talk about anything or we missed anything that y'all want to talk about.
No, it's been real nice chatting before and during this. So it's been a great time.
Yeah, well, thank y'all for coming on the podcast. I had a blast like watching and just being out there, and every time I saw y'all were taking pictures or smiling when I was taking a picture, which was always nice to see. But I would really like to come back, and I would like to tour it.
Oh yeah,
I think it's just so beautiful, and it looks like a really nice course. And I've ridden some of it, so I know it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it would definitely be worth doing that.
Are you coming back next year?
Probably.
What about you, Chris?
Probably. We'll see.
I told him I'd do the 85 next year.
Do the 25.
I'm just going up Spruce Knob and back down.
Let's just come knock this thing out. Bike pack some other day. No.
So you got, I assume you have do you have the FKT single speed record?
Yeah.
So this is the first year on the 260, right?
Yeah.
So y'all
the
both
220 and then the 260.
So y'all both set the FKT on the 260 route for single speed.
I guess so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, look at y'all.
Shoot, now
Couple
I have
studs.
to come back.
Yeah, right?
Now, yeah.
Now I gotta go for a little
or you
faster
just let it
time.
linger until someone takes it and then you come
Then
back.
come back. Ooh,
yeah, so
I could.
like it's there. I mean, I already did it, so come and get you some. All right, sounds good. Well, let's go. I guess we get to celebrate your victories now. Your
There we
FKTs.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, cheers.
Cheers to that.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. And thank you to Travis for bringing me out to GRUSK to check out the event, for treating me so well, and for being a guest on the podcast. I had a great time. It truly is a well-run event, and it's a beautiful area, beautiful venue, and I would absolutely love to go back myself one day and actually ride the route that, like I said on the podcast, that the touring pace of like the 260-mile route seems about perfect and right up my alley. So maybe I'll be able to make it back there next year. Also, huge shout out to my guests today on the podcast, Chris and Maggie. Absolutely killed it out there on the first ever run of the new 260-mile route, both on single speeds, showing us how it's done. Absolutely blown away by both of these legends, and just shows that the bike packing and gravel scene is groovy just about anywhere you go, including out in the middle of nowhere of West Virginia. All right, well, next week I'm releasing an interview that I did with Hannah Simon after her Tour Divide. I flew in to Austin from West Virginia on Monday, and then I drove back to Austin on Thursday to chat with Hannah, and we talked all about her Tour Divide, which is epic in and of itself. But if you listen to my first episode with her, you'll know that is just the first step in what she set as a big challenge this year, which is the Triple Crown. So this next episode, we're talking about her Tour Divide, but we're also talking about her preparation for the Colorado Trail, which is coming up in less than 30 days. So that's coming out next week. I'm excited for that episode. I hope you are too. I appreciate you so much for being here and checking out this episode. If you would like to support these episodes, we'd encourage you to go visit patreon.com/bikesordeath and maybe kick a couple dollars our way as a thank you and to help us produce these episodes. All right, that's it. Well, until next week, you know what to do. Don't forget to go ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes or death. Bikes or death.